by the middle rounds, let's say the 6th round and beyond, you have to have at least one starting pitcher. And I'd like to get my second starting pitcher by the 5th or the 6th round. We're talking in like a 12-team league. So I'd like to have one ace, a top 8, top 10 starting pitcher, and then a second-tier guy like a Chris Archer or a Cole Hamels. Not huge on Hamels this year because the walk rate was so high last year, but maybe like a Chris Archer, someone in that 15 to 20 range as my number 2 starting pitcher. I want 2 by the 6th round. I want at least one outfielder early in the first 3 rounds, let's say. Outfield is a very top-heavy position. You've got to get a stud, and then you wait until later in the draft. It's actually a lot like starting pitcher. And by the 5th or 6th round, I might be looking at a guy like Gregory Polanco. I think we're going to talk about him later as my number 2 outfielder. In those middle rounds, though, you're going to get a 3rd starting pitcher. You might get some infielders in that round. There's going to be great value at 3rd base and 2nd base.
So, but the thing is this, it seems like everybody has been chasing power over the past few years, but if there's one attribute that seems to be lacking at the end of the season that all of a sudden we're trying to go get is speed.
Yeah.
Do we need to pay a little bit closer attention to trying to grab those speed guys earlier?
Speed's brutal. I mean, last year we saw so many home runs, but steals just keep declining and declining, and we have very few base stealers. At this point, nobody wants to run into an out with how prolific hitters are now. So it's very difficult. And in your early rounds, the best hitters that get steals, the guys like Charlie Blackmon, Trey Turner, they go really early. And a lot of them give you power as well. So those are really valuable players to get. If you can't get them, you know, in a categories league, there have been times where I've done some drafts for like a head-to-head categories leagues, and I just haven't been able to get D. Gordon or Gene Segura. So I kind of punt steals. I don't want to do it, but yeah, if you don't prioritize it early, what you're going to end up doing is drafting somebody like Eduardo Nunez or Gerard Dyson, guys who really don't give you anything but steals, and those they could really hurt you.
Billy Hamilton.
Billy Hamilton came on strong at the end of last year, so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he can put it together. But if he's a steal specialist and that's all he does, and you're taking him in the 5th or 6th round, it's a terrible pick, and you're right. So steals are tricky. You want to get a power speed guy early if you can.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, every year there are also guys who just, you know, jump up the boards, even though they have a small sample size. Trey Turner, Gary Sanchez, 2 perfect examples of those guys who are gone by, I don't know, round 5 or so this year. Is it a mistake, though, to ignore the sophomore slump, not seeing what they could possibly do this year?
It's tricky. You never know what's going to happen with the sophomore slump. You know, last year, Corey Seager, for example, had a great year. And that was probably really his sophomore season. He played a little bit in 2015. So it's not a guarantee. But you expect Trey Turner to be a little bit worse. I think the thing with Turner is by the first week of the season, he's going to have shortstop eligibility. He's going to be eligible at second, short, and outfield. And he steals so many bases. He's going to hit at the top of the order for a great team that even if he regresses in batting average, which he will, he should be fine. I am a little worried about Gary Sanchez. And, yeah, the sophomore slump in general. I think Michael Conforto, Anthony Rizzo, Eric Hosmer, Jason Hayward. It goes back. There have been a lot of guys, so you have to be careful when you're going with sophomore guys. Yeah, you should expect a little bit of regression.
And you mentioned versatility. You like guys who have 3rd base, shortstop versatility, but only if you take advantage of it. If you have Manny Machado and you end up playing him at 3rd base because you ended up getting another shortstop, you know, I mean, Machado's numbers are great for a 3rd baseman, but they're amazing if you have another 3rd baseman to put in behind him as well. But, you know, as long as we're talking about every year and trying to get guys who are consistent year in and year out. What do you think about those guys that have like career years? Mark Trumbo is a perfect example of someone who had a career year last year. Do you see that as a guy who's trending up, or is it just, again, an anomaly?
I wouldn't expect Trumbo to do what he did last year, but his power is obviously legit. He's going to hit in a good ballpark for a good lineup, so he should be a top 20 outfielder, and he's being drafted that way. I think we've gotten to the point in the fantasy community, there's so much research you can do, and we've seen so much that we know when a guy has a career year, it's not going to happen again. So you look at a guy like Rick Porcello, right? He won the Cy Young last year. He's like the 18th pitcher off the board on draft day. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's already enough baked-in doubt that these guys are not going too high in drafts. Like Mark Trumbo, based on what he did last year, should be a 3rd-round pick.
Let somebody else make that mistake.
Yeah, but if you get him in the 6th round in a 12-team league, that's fine. You should expect a lot of power and run production from Mark Trumbo.
Now, earlier you said you thought the outfield position was really top-heavy, but I see a lot of depth deeper in the draft of the outfield. Maybe it's because it's a lot of risk-reward guys later in the draft, but if you do agree that there is a ton of depth later in the draft of the outfield, would that inspire you to really try to target infielders earlier?
Depends how early. So how I feel about outfield is the same as how I feel about starting pitcher. You do want to get a couple of studs. but you don't want to fill up that position too early when you're building your roster. Because, yeah, the two positions that you're going to get the best value at late in the draft, starting pitcher and outfield. You'll get a guy like Jason Hayward, 17th, 18th round. You'll get Byron Buxton, who you can take a shot on. You'll get Mitch Haniger. He's even later than that. So Michael Brantley, like 13th, 14th round.
You really want to go Michael Brantley once again? You really want to give him another
in the 13th or 14th
shot?
round, I will take a flyer. I don't even know if I want to waste another.
I wasted a roster spot on this guy last year for the whole year.
It's all about upside at that point. And just a few years ago, he was one of the best hitters in baseball. But I feel you there. And there's a lot of options. That's the point. So if you play in a 3-outfielder league, you certainly don't want to get all 3 by like the 7th round.
Right.
I wouldn't take more than 2 with your first 8 picks because maybe your first 7 picks because there's such good value at outfield and starting pitcher late. That will help you build your infield earlier, yeah.
Relief pitcher is always a very fluid situation, and it is throughout the season. Saves are kind of like steals. It's a category where a lot of owners tend to punt on. Where do you land on saves?
Yeah.
How do you attack your draft with relief pitchers?
Don't punt saves. Do not punt saves.
Because you're going to be in a world of hurt if you do.
Well, if you punt saves, don't forget, if you get a starting pitcher who throws 200 innings and you get league average strikeouts out of that starting pitch, 200 innings is a lot, by the way. There aren't that many. You're going to get like 170 strikeouts, okay? You get Kenley Jansen or Aroldis Chapman, you're going to get 110, 120 strikeouts, something like that. Don't punt saves. I think actually relief pitcher is the one position I am drafting more differently this year than I ever have in the past. I think there are about 14 relief pitchers, closers, that are, I don't know if they're all elite, but they all could be elite. Guys like Ken Giles and Edwin Diaz, strike out Kelvin Herrera, strike out a lot of batters and get a lot of saves. I want at least one of those guys. In the last draft, it was an auction. I got 2 of those guys. And then like Neftali Feliz just for saves later. You don't want to be the guy who's got Neftali Feliz and Brandon Maurer. You want to have at least one of those top 14 because you're going to be at a big disadvantage from the rest of your league at the position if you don't.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of question marks after the top 15 closers out there, so it should be interesting. By the way, every year we ask you if you can identify a player that's maybe going to jump up to the next level. Last year, you identified George Springer, whose average draft position last year was around 75. This year, he's improved to 30. So who's your guy this year? Who's the one that's going to jump from, say, maybe a mid-tier player to a top tier?
Gregory Polanco. I love Gregory Polanco this year. I think he was breaking out last year. He was going to be someone that we'd take in like the 2nd round of a draft. But then he played about half the season hurt, and his numbers really took a dive. I think best case scenario for Polanco, he's a 25-25 guy with home runs and steals. It's for a respectable batting average. I don't think he's going to excel at that, but he's going to score a lot of runs and could drive in 70, 80 runs. I think Gregory Polanco is going to be a great pick. I like him better than his teammate, Andrew McCutchen.
I was going to say, he's actually getting drafted a few spots in front of McCutchen.
They're really close. It depends who you're asking. Look, McCutchen's not going to steal bases anymore. We talked about how steals are scarce. So get a guy like Polanco in round 5 or 6, and he could really help you in steals and a lot more.
You can get all of his insights by subscribing to his podcast on CBSSports.com. Adam Aizer, thanks so much for coming in again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's always great.